Hi guys, this is Patrick. Welcome to my garage. Today we're going to be doing some work on my 2014 Dodge Durango. Specifically, what I think a lot of you guys are going to be watching this video for is how to remove that center airbag from the steering wheel. There's a lot of videos on this that show you jamming things up. Basically, it's the kind, if you've got the steering wheel, you've got two little holes on either side, and you have to jam something up in there. An Allen wrench is what a lot of people suggest, and wiggle around this, that, and the other in order to pop that airbag off. And a lot of people, even in the videos, it's taking them 20, 30, 40 minutes, and you can tell they've been cussing because it's not as difficult as they say. They're just not understanding how to do it. So I'm going to show you just how to do that, so you'll be able to pop it off anytime you want within 30 seconds. Again, mine's a 2014 Dodge Durango, but this same steering wheel is definitely on Jeep Grand Cherokees, a lot of other Dodges, Challengers, Chargers, different Jeeps, probably on some Chrysler products too. If there are, I can't say all, but if you've got the ones with the two little holes on the back of the steering wheel, this is going to work for you, and we'll show you how to do it real easy. So, what a lot of these places are telling you is to use something like an Allen wrench, a small Allen wrench, kind of like what we've got there, and an Allen wrench will work. Truth be told, the first time I was able to get it to actually pop off, I did use this Allen wrench exactly. I don't find an Allen wrench to be the best thing to use. And the reason is, when you put this in, you're going to have to put a fair amount of force pushing into it, and there's just not a lot to grab onto with an Allen wrench. If you had a screwdriver, an Allen wrench screwdriver, or even a Torx, those will work just fine, and it probably are the best things to use for what you might have laying around the house. Now, a lot of people won't have this sort of stuff, and there is good news, because there's something you've got in your house that'll work just fine, and that's just a regular old small flathead screwdriver. Now, you cannot use a Phillips head screwdriver. You can't use a nail, a screw, a coat hanger, anything with a point. You need something with a fairly flat end on it, a fairly blunt end, because what you're actually going to do, and I'll show you using something a little larger. What you're actually going to be doing is, inside that steering wheel, you've got a spring coming down. The spring basically kind of looks like this. It's just it's loose and will flex at one end, and the top is attached to the tab, kind of like this. So what you're going to need to do is push that spring over to release it from that tab, and then it'll pop out. In order to do that, you're going to use a screwdriver, not nearly this big, but just to display. So what you're going to be doing is, the spring is angled just about like this. You're going to be taking the screwdriver, butting it up to it, and then just pushing it up like that, just pushing it straight in, and that'll release that spring, because again, there's a tab right there, and once you release that from that tab, it'll pop right out. So that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to be using a small screwdriver, a small flathead screwdriver like this one. A medium-sized flathead screwdriver will work as well. The hole, really, it doesn't fit, but it is made of a foam rubber, so it will flex and stretch. I may actually use the thicker one, just because it'll be a little bit easier to see based on what we're doing. But ideally, a smaller one's what you want, because then you've less likely chance of doing any damage to those little holes. You're not going to injure those little holes, but it might just not look as good. So we're going to hop in the car, and I'll show you how it's done. Hi, so we're in the car, and I want to thank my daughter Mia, who's going to do the camera work for us. So if it's all shaky, it'll be her fault. So as you can see, this is the steering wheel. Can we get a good picture of the steering wheel so you can see what it is? This is the basic design of it, and I've got a light shining everywhere. They may look a little different, but this is the piece that we're going to be taking off. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the battery cable. If you don't know how to disconnect the battery from your car, you should probably not be trying this. In this particular case, the battery is under my passenger seat, which is kind of strange, but that's where it is. So at least get under there, unhook the negative battery cable. If it's up there and you're under your hood, your battery's up there, unhook that. If you don't know what you're doing, you're probably getting in too deep. So make sure you unhook the battery from your car. Give it a good 10 minutes to sit and let all the juice drain out of your car. You don't want to work on a live airbag. They shouldn't go off even if they're live, but there is a chance, and you want to be as safe as you can when you're dealing with these airbags, because they are dangerous. So I've disconnected the battery. I've let the car sit for about 10 minutes at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the horn, just to, if there's any residual charge left in the system, that'll kind of drain it. So give the horn a little push. You know you're safe to work on it from there. So again, what we're going to be doing, everything we're going to need to do to get this piece off is going to be done with this little screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. So if we can come in close, you can see that the hole that we're dealing with is right here, and I'm sure you guys have seen this and messed with it before. You can see that mine's a little torn up because all the videos I've been watching had me twisting and pushing and pulling and stuff like that, and none of that needs to be done. So what I'm going to do is take the screwdriver, take my flathead screwdriver. I want the blade of the screwdriver to be parallel to the steering wheel, or to the steering column, okay, or parallel to the ground. So you want it like, back up just a bit, you want it to be like this. You don't want the blade to be up and down like this. You want the blade to be side to side. That's going to be really important, or you'll never be able to get it on there. You're also going to be at a slightly upwards angle, as if you're angling for the center of the steering wheel. You're not going to be going at a forward or backward angle like this, coming forward towards you or back towards the dashboard at all. You're really going to be going just about straight in at a slightly upwards angle. Now, about a half inch in, half inch, 3/4 of an inch in, about that far is where you're going to hit the edge of that spring. And if you can hear it when I hit it, you can kind of feel it. Now, sometimes your screwdriver is going to want to slip off of that, and that stinks. But if you've got it good and flat, you ought to be able to do this. So stick it in about a half an inch. Then you're going to place one hand up here on top of the steering wheel. That's going to allow you to just give a little bit of pull once you've released the spring. So once your screwdriver is planted onto that spring, you're going to end up pushing it in about an inch, inch and a half. And I'm going to do that right now. So push it in. Once it's all the way in, you should be able to pull the top just gently, and you can see that the steering wheel has come out. It's come out just about enough for me to get my fingers in, but that's basically loose. You've released it. I'm going to do that one more time on this side so that everybody can see it. To pop it back in, when you're ready to, just give it a little fist, and you can hear it click back in. You can see it won't come back in. So let's do that one more time. We're going to be a little bit further back. Hope maybe that'll help. So maybe a little bit further back of an angle so that we can see it again. I'm going to put my small screwdriver parallel to the steering column. I'm going to push it in about a half an inch straight in with a little bit of an up angle. I'll feel that spring. Try and get a good grip on that spring. And then put your hand up at the top. Push that sucker in about an inch, inch and a half. And the top will release right out. And you can see that it's done that. We're going to flip around to the other side. The other side is basically the same deal, but we're going to flip around to the other side just so we can show that you can do it. All right, so we're flipped around to the other side of the vehicle. We've got the one side loose. A lot of people will suggest, and the manual even suggests maybe putting something in here to keep it from snapping back into place, which may seem, if you've been messing with this, like the worst thing ever. Again, you can do this in 30 seconds, so it snaps back into place. It's not a big deal. You really got to whack it to get it in there, so probably it'll be fine. But we're just basically going to do the same thing. We're taking our small screwdriver and putting the blade parallel to the steering column. We're going to put it in that hole and feel for that spring at a slight upwards angle, but straight in otherwise. Once you feel it, again, I can feel it right there, which is about that far in, less than an inch certainly. Right there, then you just push it all the way in, grab the top, and pops right out. So just so you can see, it did pop right out. I'm going to push this in and do it one more time on this side. I'm just going to pop this side in only and leave this back side out. You can hear it click back in, so now it's in there. And I'll tell you what, just to prove it can be done with something else, we're going to use that little Allen wrench, which is a lot more of a pain, but it'll work just fine. So you'll see, we take that little Allen wrench, we put it in, and again, we're not pushing forward this way, we're not pulling it back this way. All we're doing, if I could push my finger in straight like that, that's all we're doing, is pushing that spring in, and I'll give you a better shot once the steering wheel's off. So we're going to take that, we're going to grab it, we're going to push it straight in, and see, it's hard to grab with this. There's just not that much to grab, and you can feel it slipping off. But if you really do it, you can get it, and there it goes. It is released. Now, once you do that, you can't just yank it off. You've got 3 wires that you've got to disconnect in there first. And once we're going to reposition some lights to make sure you can see that, and I'll show you how to get all those off without breaking any of those connectors, which is a bit of a thing as well. So we'll be back with a different angle. So we've got some different lights just to hopefully allow you guys to see this. Again, there's basically just 3 wires or 4 connections, 4 or 5 connections, depending on how you look at it, that you need to do before you can actually remove this. So we're going to try and get in here close. Don't pull it too hard. The easiest ones to get to, if you're looking at the horn, are going to be right at the top. and those are the horn connectors. That's this one and this one. And basically, those are fairly simple connectors. You can just grab those with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull them right off. There's one, and there's two. Now, this wire, hopefully you can see, this wire goes all the way up, hooks into this little connector, and it basically splits off into these two horn wires. Well, if you just take, there we go, I think we can see it now. Try and give you a couple different views of it. This piece right here will come right off. So it'll just sort of slide out the bottom. It's got a little connector in there that you may have to stick a small screwdriver in to pop out, which is right there, but it should just slide right out. And that disconnects the entire horn from the mechanism, so that all you've got now are the airbag tools, or at least I believe they're the airbag. I'm not an expert on this, or the airbag connectors. And that's these two right here. They are color coded, so you don't have to remember where they go, but you can't just yank them out. So what you're going to need to do, there's these two little orange tabs right in here. Again, use that same small screwdriver, put it underneath that, and just give it a little twist to lift it up. You can see how it's lifted up, this right here. That's what locks it in. Put that, wiggle that screwdriver in and just lift it up. Once you do that, these will pop out. And you do the same thing for the other one. Wiggle it in. This one's being a little more stubborn. You pop it out. There you've got your airbag thing. And if all you need to do is put this back in, you can stop the video right now and put a new one right in there. But we'll go on to the next port. So I wanted to give you a brief tutorial on exactly what you're doing releasing that airbag, and I think this might help you visualize a little bit better. So this is the airbag unit outside of the car. So I'm turning this around, and basically what you're looking at here is the hole that you're seeing on the outside that you're sticking the screwdriver through is basically right here, and it's going right into this little area here. You can see there's a little indentation right there, and if you can feel that, great. If not, it's not a big deal. Right behind there is where that spring is. So this screwdriver is too big. Let me get a smaller one. So this is where the small screwdriver comes into play. Basically what you're doing is sticking it right in there, and if you can see this right here, this is the spring that holds it on. And there's a clip basically that clips behind, kind of like that. So what you're going to need to do is basically push that spring backwards. So when you're going in the hole, all you're, again, really doing is just taking the bottom of that spring and moving it backwards like that. I hope you can see that. So just watch this spring right here, which comes all the way down to there. It would come in the hole, you'd tap it, and you'd know you got a good spot, and just push it in. And at that point, you can pop it off. So that's basically all you're doing. You see how it's slipping off on me a couple times, and that's the frustrating part. But if you get it good and flat and push it in, that's basically what you're doing. Okay, so we've disconnected the airbag mechanism, and now the next thing we're going to need to do is take the actual steering wheel off. And you're going to need to do this with anything that you're, well, if you needed to get the center pieces, the controls here for the cruise control, or if you need the directional buttons or your telephone buttons over here, you could do that without getting to the back of the. You can get to the back of the steering enough to do that, but we're going to assume that you need to take this whole thing off because, again, I need to. I've already done this, and I'm redoing it all just for your help. What I had to replace was back here. This piece right here that has the turn signal on it. My turn signal had gone bad, and you have to replace this as an entire thing, so there's clearly no way to get to this without pulling the whole steering wheel off. So what we're going to do, you're going to need to get a 10mm Allen socket. You cannot use an Allen wrench. You will not have enough strength to do it. This is going to be a really, really, really tight bolt probably. It's probably going to require someone to hold on with almost all their might of the steering wheel to keep it from steering while you crank that bolt. Once you break it, it comes out nice and easy, but it's on there tight. Now, I've already done it, so mine's not going to be quite as tight. But what I did use is an extension, about a 6 or 7 inch extension, the 10-inch Allen socket, ratchet, and my breaker bar, which I put on like this to give myself a lot of extra force. You can use a breaker bar too as well, but I'll show you how to do it. If we can swing in here and see, this is the nut we're going to be removing. It's right in the center. It's really pretty obvious. It's this one right here in the center. Again, it's an Allen, and it's 10 millimeters, which is a pretty big Allen bolt anyway. So what we're going to do, put it in there. Now I'm going to use my knee to hold it, and I think that's going to be enough, and there it goes. It's only enough to do that with my knee because I just got done doing this a little bit ago. So we're going to pull that all the way out. And it is in there fairly far, so you'll have to swing it around quite a few times, but it's nice and easy once you've got it broke. Now I'll tell you, the first time that I broke this bolt free, it was nearly all the might that I could use with my 18-year-old son holding with almost all the might he could use to hold it before it finally gave. But we were able to get it. But that's basically the bolt that we're going to be looking at. So we'll set that up on the dashboard. Now at that point, the steering wheel's loose and will come off if you pull it. But there are still some wires connected that we do need to disconnect. Now, one thing you'll see, if you can swing in here and look, you'll have a plate down here. It may not be this color. I've seen some different colors, but this plate right here actually is all one piece that comes up and goes around. That bolt holds this in too. So you don't lose that, just pull it out. Otherwise, it'll hit you in the toe the way it did me. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a couple of connectors in here still coming out. The yellow connectors that you pulled off from the airbag mechanism, you do not need to do anything more with. There's a hole there that they'll slide right through. But there are two connectors here that you are going to have to deal with. Are you getting good lighting on those? Or do I need to reposition the light some? Here. Try and give you guys a really good view of these because it's easy to break these connectors. So on the first one, we'll do the one on the left, which is this black one right here, okay? So there's going to be right here on the side, you can see there's a little tab that'll pop in. Once you do that, you should just be able to pull it right out. That's all I did. I don't know how good of an angle we're going to be able to get at that, but I'll try and do it with another hand so that I want to try and keep the light in there. Here we go. So I'm putting my screwdriver on there, just on the edge. I think I got it in a little too far. Bend that down, and then just pull it out, and that'll pop right out. So the other one was a little trickier, and I found it actually easier. So the other one I'm talking about is this one right here. This white one here that's on the other side. The black one was over here. The white one is right here. And it's a little trickier. There's a hole right there that, as you can see, if I pull the steering wheel out, those go through that hole. And you'll see this because your steering wheel will be loose. And that'll still be connected. But if you go to the back side, and this is one that kind of gave me a little bit of an issue, but there's a little tab right there that holds it in. So if you just push that tab down and then pull from the other side, it should allow that to release and pop right out. Let's see if we can do it. Push it in and pull it out. So again, there's that little tab right there, and you're just pushing that in like that and then pulling it out. Once you do that, you stay right there, you can see that those yellow wires will come right out that hole. Just be careful that you don't injure them or bust them or anything like that. You definitely don't want to do that. One at a time and try and do it delicately. Okay, so we've got our steering wheel completely removed from the vehicle. On the back side of the steering wheel, you see the area. If you have paddle shifters, you'll be able to get all that. You'll also be able to get to these two sets of controls from the back to some degree. So if you need to pull either this side or this side out, we're getting all this in, right? If we need to pull either one of these out, you've got a bolt right here on either side. And then what you'll do in the back is you'll stick a little screwdriver. These little screwdrivers are useful, into the cover and just kind of pry it out. And you'll see that you've got a bolt right in there. And if you unbolt that, then this front panel will come out. So that's basically how you get to everything that you need to get to if you just need to replace something on the steering wheel. Again, that's not what I have to do here today, but that's how you do that if you needed to get to that. So we're going to put this back in, put it back together, because my steering wheel is intact. This is, by the way, a glorious time to really clean your steering wheel. It's the grossest thing in your car. When you pull it off, use a good cleaner, something that will take off grease, the oils that are on your hands. This is your one chance to really get in there and really give yourself a good clean steering wheel, getting into all the little cracks and crevices. So we're going to put steering wheel out of the way for now. And we're going to move on to the final piece of the part, which in my case was the steering wheel, or the turn signal, which is the only thing that's left on the vehicle. Now, when you purchase this, you're going to have to purchase this entire thing, and they're really quite expensive, so you do want to be careful with this. There's really not that much to it, though. So what you've got is you've got your turn signal here, you've got the body of it, and this thing in the center is called a clock spring. The reason it's called a clock spring is because you can see there are wires in there. They're flat wires, or mine are flat, yours may not be, but they're coiled to allow the steering wheel to turn while everything stays connected, while all the electrical connections stay connected. When you purchase a new one, where this red tab is, you'll have a piece here that clicks on. Sorry I don't have it, I just threw it in the garbage, and it's basically holding that. You don't want to spin this thing. It's made to be put on with the steering wheel and the wheel straight. So you want to make sure that you don't go turning things. You certainly don't unclick that tab and spin it around because it's fun. So keep that intact. But other than that, the bulk of this really just slides right off. Let me move some tools out of the way. The bolt that holds the steering wheel on is what holds this on. So what you should be able to do is just lift it right off. You may have to wiggle it just a bit to get it off, but it will just wiggle off. You can see it clicked a little bit, but basically it's off. Now the only thing holding it on is this leathery sort of spacing gap material back here. It's loose, so I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to be shocked to learn what we use, but we're using our little screwdriver one more time. And what we're going to do, this piece starts down here. Now yours may be different depending on what model you have, but all these just kind of click on. So just kind of stick it. Stick it in here. This has been the most frustrating part of this entire thing. And you can see these little tabs all around are what hold it. They're really pretty easy to get out. You can just unclick them. Just kind of pull at them. If you need to use a screwdriver, you can. But once you get those all unhooked, you can see that all you have left is the main wire that's coming from out of the car. And this wire is going to be what controls your horn, your airbag mechanism, everything that comes through your steering wheel. So when you're looking at that little yellow connector that's in there, again, it's a really easy one to pull out. You can see this tab right here. Once you depress that, you should just be able to depress it once again with your little screwdriver and back it right out. So again, I'll show you how to do that again one more time. Well, there's not that much to it. You push it in all the way and then just back it on out. And that's it. So we're going to do really everything from here on out is just the reversal of what we did to put everything in. But I am going to do it just in case anybody has any issues and remembers. So if you're following the video and you want to do this, you'll have something good to follow. Right now, while it's unhooked though, I could turn this clock spring, wherever I wanted, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure it stays where it's at because that's where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and put everything back in. We'll do it real quick. We'll see how quickly we can even do it. So first thing we start off is rehooking that yellow connector. Listen for it to snap. Make sure it's in there tight. That's going to be important. Next thing we'll do is slide it on, making sure it's nice and even. It should only go on one way. And then just sort of position these up, pull them in and click them, and you'll do that all the way around. The other side's just the same. You just click it on in. Everything's good and secure. All right, the only thing sticking out are the wires for the airbag at this point. Then we grab our steering wheel once again. La, 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 la. Okay, so these two holes right here on either side of the steering wheel are what all your wires are going to go through. So first thing we want to do, there's that little white one. We're going to push that in there. We're going to put both of these in through that hole on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. We're going to push both of them in. They won't go in probably sideways like this, so you kind of have to turn them like this, but you know, you'll figure that out. So get them in there, stuff them in there. Try not to be too rough with them. They do control your stuff. So get them in there, wiggle them in, and then you should be able to put your steering wheel right back square the way it came out. Okay? Now, at that point, I find it best to go ahead and reattach your steering wheel. I think it just makes everything a lot easier. Don't forget about that piece that you pulled out. It just sits right in there. I'm gonna come around, and you still have good enough light to see this? Not really, do we? Let me reposition the light for a minute here, and we will see if we can get a little better light. Okay, sorry. So we've got the steering wheel sitting back in there. We're gonna take that piece that just sits in and bolts in, and it just lays back in there. Make sure you're not pinching any wires or anything like that. Get it back there so it's good and flush. Then what we're gonna do is put that bolt back in there. Try and let you guys see, and then screw him. Get him all the way in. Once you get it tight, you'll need to use a ratchet. And you want to make this fairly tight, remembering that this is what holds your steering wheel on. You don't want your steering wheel coming off. Even though, since it is easy to get the airbag off now for you, it won't be that big a deal to open it up and retighten it. Okay, so when it bottoms out, you'll feel it. Just make sure it's good and tight. It doesn't have to be as tight as it probably was when you took it off, but it does have to be tight. So, back to the center. I'm going to move the light to try and give us the best light possible. Again, you'll have two connectors. You've got this white connector that goes into this little spot right here. You just go ahead and pop that baby back in over there. And then the black connector. Your connectors could be a little different based on what model you have, and then you'll just have to sort of figure it out yourself. But at least you'll know how to do it if you've got these exact connectors. So you'll pop those back in, kind of push them back out of the way where they were. And that's what it should look like. The next thing we'll need to do is connect the airbag module. So we're going to grab that again. And hopefully we'll be able to see this without too much trouble. So there's the top. There's my Dodge airbag emblem. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first attach the airbags. Now they are color coded, so you don't have to remember. They should have different colors. You can see that this one's blue, and it obviously goes into that one right there. That's a little blue as well. So you're going to push that in, and they'll only go in one way. I think I got that one a little backwards though, so I'll have to spin it around. And so once you push in, it should go in pretty easy. Then you just pop that tab in, and that pushes it in. Same thing for the top one. You're going to line it up, push it in, pop the tab. Now that's hooked up. Then you'll take that black wire that's hanging. You'll need to kind of click it back in there. This is just a clip that kind of holds it in place, so it's not the it's not the easiest thing to fiddle with, but you can do it. You just got to get it in there and click it in place. There we go. So it just holds it, keeps it out of the way, keeps it secure. And then you've got your two horn buttons. One's fat and one's skinny. You can see there's a difference, so you can't mess it up. You put the fat one on the fat tab. The skinny tab's up also at the top. You put the skinny one on the skinny tab. Like that. And they just slide right on there. There's nothing too difficult about that. Kind of make sure everything's positioned. You've got everything hooked up. Then you want to swing your airbag mechanism around and just get it kind of lined up. It's pretty easy. You'll feel that it's approximately there. Take your fist and right at the corner there, kind of right next to where your controls are, just give it a swift little pounding. Remember, this is your horn. It's meant to take a little bit of a pounding. Same thing there. You see that side clicked in. Now we'll do this side. Little push. Now it's in. You can feel the horn being willing to depress. And that's it. So that's the entirety of putting all this together. The piece of getting that airbag popped off. Again, it's just not that terribly difficult. You're just going to pop it in, find that spring, and pop it out. It's just that simple. So I hope this helped you guys a lot. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in my on the bottom there, and I'll try and answer them if I can. Other than that, I hope it helps you. This is Patrick. Thanks to my daughter Mia, and hope to see you again on the next video.